You have already designed the life you want, down to the logo, the city, and the aesthetic. You have likely rehearsed the interview, where you explain how it all started, the turning point. You can see it so clearly, it almost feels like a memory, and you haven't even started. Not a plan, or a single step, not even a search, just the dream sitting there, specific yet untouched. Feeling important, feeling like someday. And here is the part nobody actually tells you, not even the productivity gurus. It is usually not laziness. It is not that you don't care. If anything, you care so much that moving feels dangerous. You care too much to risk finding out what happens when you try. That is the whole problem. Most people who study motivation will tell you the gap between wanting something and doing it is about discipline or time management. And look, those things matter, but they are kind of missing the forest for the trees. Because what is happening in the mind of someone who dreams constantly and does consistently nothing is more than just get off your phone. Let's start with something counterintuitive. The more vividly you imagine your future success, the more detailed and emotional, the more real it feels. The less likely you are to actually pursue it. Psychologist Gabrielle Oettingen found what challenges a lot of what the self-help industry promotes. Positive visualization, the kind where you close your eyes and feel yourself living the dream, it actually relaxes your nervous system. Research using physiological measures found that positive fantasies about a desired future lowered participants' systolic blood pressure and subjective energy levels, compared to people who didn't visualize at all. Your brain, in a measurable sense, partially registers the reward before you have done a single thing. Energy drops, motivation follows. So all those vision boards and manifestation journals, that time spent imagining the outcome, they might be doing the opposite. But what is weird is, and why this doesn't fully explain the people we are really talking about. Because some people don't just visualize their dreams. They become their dreams, and that becomes their whole identity. Things tend to take a darker turn. Think about the person, maybe it is you, no judgment, who talks about the dream, the business, the book, the album. Everyone around them knows about it by now. They have been saying it for 2 years, maybe 5, and they are passionate when they talk about it. It doesn't feel performative. It feels completely real to them, because it is real, but maybe not in the way they think. When a goal becomes identity, when I want to be a writer quietly shifts into I am a writer, I just haven't written anything yet. Doing the actual work becomes genuinely threatening, not metaphorically, but psychologically so. Because if you try and it doesn't go well, it is evidence about who you are. And the mind treats that kind of threat the same way it treats any other. It tends to avoid it. There is actually research behind this. Psychologist Peter Gallwitzer found that when people publicly announce identity-related goals, it can give you a premature sense of success. The aspiration gets socially confirmed, and something in the brain relaxes its grip on actually chasing it. You told everyone you are becoming a lawyer, people nodded. Somewhere in you that registered as progress. This is also connected to what researchers call self-handicapping, the strategy where people unconsciously create conditions that make failure explainable. Jones and Berglas first identified this in 1978, and the core of it is simple. I haven't really started yet, so I can't really fail yet. The dream stays clean, the dreamer stays protected. And the cruelest part, it works as a short-term emotional strategy, it absolutely works. You preserve the identity, you dodge the discomfort, and the dream stays beautiful and intact and entirely hypothetical. There is an even more subtle version, though. Some people don't avoid failure by doing nothing, but by staying busy with everything except the real thing. Endless research, courses, podcasts, reorganizing their workspace, reading books about people who did the thing. They are genuinely busy, and they can point to all of it as evidence that they are working towards something. This is preparation that functions as avoidance, and it is hard to call out because it looks so responsible. The intention-behavior gap, the psychological term for the space between meaning to do something and actually doing it, is well documented. How does this work? I don't get it. Wait, oh, I see. Aha. And for big dreamers specifically, it is not that they can't be bothered. It is that the stakes feel so high that starting feels like gambling everything. So they don't start. And then the story starts to shift, subtly. I will start when things calm down becomes, I am just not in the right headspace. Becomes honestly, I am not sure that path is even right for me anymore. Becomes years later a kind of grief they can't quite name. Because they can't point to a specific moment they gave up. They never did, they just kept not starting. That grief is not to be downplayed. It is not dramatic, but it is real. There is a low-grade sadness that comes from carrying an unlived version of yourself. So what actually helps? Oettingen's research points to something she calls mental contrasting, which is not positive visualization and not pessimism. It is holding the desired outcome clearly in mind while simultaneously confronting the actual obstacles in front of you, concretely and honestly. What specifically is getting in the way? What has been getting in the way for months? When people do this genuinely, the energy shifts. It is no longer borrowed from an imagined future. It has to come from the present. And that creates a different kind of motivation, when that is less exciting to feel, but actually moves. The other thing is that telling everyone about the dream might be the first thing worth stopping. Of course, sharing goals isn't always bad, but when the people around you already think of you as the person who is going to do that thing, a quiet part of your brain files it under done. Keep it closer to yourself for a while, let the work be the announcement. And the dream probably needs to get smaller before it can get real. When the dream feels that big, no single action ever feels like enough. So you never take one. But a genuine, uncomfortable hour spent on the one task you have been avoiding for 3 weeks. Now, if that last part landed and you are sitting there thinking, okay, but I genuinely don't know how to actually structure this day to day, I have linked something in the description that I think will help. It is a 7-day reset bundle I put together specifically for people who are stuck in this exact pattern. Overthinking, emotional blocks, building actual follow-through, broken down into something you can work through daily without it feeling like another thing you started and abandoned. Underneath all of this, the self-handicapping, the identity fusion, the comfortable paralysis of endless preparation, there is usually just fear. Others. A very old, very human fear of being seen trying and coming up short. Of finding out that the dream hasn't gone anywhere. The problem is that somewhere along the way, the dream stopped being a direction and became a destination you never bought a ticket for. You already know what the thing is. The question is whether you are going to keep thinking about it or actually start.